Good morning. Today's a beautiful fall day, a perfect day for us all to get together for our Sunday worship service. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in the Brazos Valley, or Brazos UU for short. My name is Pam Johnson, and I am your worship assistant today. I come to this church because I like being in a church with a covenant and not a creed. I like the ability to explore, expand, and practice my beliefs. I like that coming to this church makes me feel that I am becoming a better person. Welcome, visitors, freethinkers, and free spirits. We are a welcoming congregation, which means we celebrate and welcome all people of any sexual orientation, race, age, gender identity, ability, or belief. So whoever you are, wherever you have come from, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome and encouraged here. Honoring the value of spiritual freedom and diversity, we have no statement of doctrine. As a covenanted community, we agree to a set of principles that we all follow as we search for truth and how it applies to ethical living. Unitarian Universalism is a faith of covenant, not creed. This means that Unitarian Universalists seek and use wisdom from many diverse sources. We encourage everyone to visit our website, brazos-uu.org, which is our digital home in this time of great transition. During this time of the pandemic and in the midst of our planned building project, the website and these weekly services are our only church home. As you can see from the website, the Brazos UU is always open to new directions, ideas, and partnerships. To find out more, you are always welcome to join our email list for updates from our weekly eCast and our monthly newsletter. And you can also find us on social media by searching UUCBV. For more information about this, you can always write our administrator at admin, that's ADMIN, at brazos-uu.org, which you will see on your screen now. If you might like to contribute your musical talents, if you have a great story to share about your life's journey, or if you have a passion for social justice, we would love to hear from you. If you are interested in getting involved, you can find plenty of information on our website. You can find links to all of our meetings on our interactive website calendar. Just click on the calendar tab at the top of our website page, which you will see on your screen now. When you come to an event, you click on the event and the link to join the meeting will be shown. Our service today, in the wake of Tuesday's presidential election, is about what we as people who are committed to the democratic process do now.
This is a call to worship for the joyful, for the brokenhearted, the fearful, the exhausted. For whatever you are feeling right now, may this be a place for you to find what you need. You are welcome here, in this gathering where we come to feed our souls, heal our hurts, and just be together. For too long now, we have experienced the things that divide us, poverty and oppression, unjust laws and policies, violence and imprisonment. We cannot fix these in a day or even a year, but we can fix them, and we must. Because we know that despite these divisions, despite the triumphs or defeats of a candidate or parties, our destinies, all our destinies, remain deeply intertwined. Liberation must be for all people if it is truly liberation. As long as one soul suffers needlessly, we cannot rest. As long as our planet screams out in pain, so will all who live on her. So for all the feelings, the emotions, the pains and hurts, the joy and celebration, all that you have in your heart and body and mind today, you are welcome here. Here may you find rest and renewal, partners for the journey, time to contemplate, and energy for action. Let us worship.
Thank you, Reverend Christian. I invite you to light your own chalice if you have one, as I light our chalice today. Please say our chalice lighting words with me. We light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, as a beacon of hope for all who seek justice, dignity, and compassion, and in celebration of a life of truth and meaning we share together. Now all please join saying our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our time for all ages today is a story by John Lewis called Walking with the Wind. He writes, about 15 of us children were outside my Aunt Suneva's house, playing in her dirt yard. The sky began clouding over, the wind started picking up, lightning flashed far off in the distance, and suddenly I wasn't thinking about playing anymore. I was terrified. Aunt Suneva was the only adult around. As the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed inside. Small and surprisingly quiet. All the shouting and laughter that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. The wind was howling now, the house starting to shake. We were scared. Even Aunt Suneva was scared. And then it got worse. The house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring underneath us began to bend. And then a corner of the room started lifting up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. The storm was actually pulling the house towards the sky with us inside it. That was when Aunt Suneva told us to clasp our hands. Line up and hold hands, she said, and we did as we were told. Then she had us walk as a group toward the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house we walked, the wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then we walked back in the other direction as the other end of the house began to lift. And so it went, back and forth, 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. More than half a century has passed since that day, and it has struck me more than once over those many years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another. The walls around us seeming at times like they might fly apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as if it might burst at the seams, so much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed. They came together, and they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving towards the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift, and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle, and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come, and we would have to do it all over again. And we did. And we still do. All of us. You and I. Children holding hands, walking with the wind. And so ends our time for all ages.
If we were having worship service in person, this is the time when we would pass the basket. This church shares the proceeds of the offering plate donation each week to support important nonprofit organizations with which we work. We are proud to support the Brazos Valley Food Bank for November through January. If you wish to make an offering, you can mail your check, or for your convenience, you can donate online. On our homepage at brazos-uu.org, you can find our mailing address at the bottom, and at the top, you will see a Donate Here tab to click to see donation options. You will see how to donate in the chat box now. into our hearts, how much love, how much generosity, how much faith, how much gratitude, how much hope is there? We give thanks for these gifts we have given, for those we receive, and for each other.
I want to invite us all into a time of quiet followed by our prayers. So get your bodies ready. Relax deep into your seats. Still your busy minds. Get all the last little wiggles out of your body. And join me in a time of quiet meditation. I hope you'll join me in the silence now. Our prayer today comes from the Reverend Beth Dana, one of the ministers of First Unitarian Church of Dallas. She writes, God of many names, mystery beyond all our naming, lift us above the divisions, move us beyond inaction, and heal us that we may know our wholeness within and together. As we emerge from this week's election, a time of regrouping, of celebration and despair, let us continue on. May the victories energize the work ahead. May there be space for disappointment. And then, may the spirit of inspiration found in coming together stoke the fires of commitment within us. Commitment to our neighbors, to justice, to creating a better world, propelling us forward to do the shared work ahead, that our voices, that all voices may be heard, and that we may find continued ways to love and to serve. May our relationships with those whose views we share, as well as those with whom we disagree, be filled with the spirit of compassion, moving us beyond the walls of our knowing, beyond the walls of sameness, toward each other's humanity. Amen. As we prepare to share those joys and concerns on our hearts and minds, I invite you to take a deep breath with me, in and out. And again, in and out. There's so much in our world, so much beauty, so much joy, so much sadness, so much pain. If you have a particular joy, concern, or sorrow to share with us, I invite you to do so right now in the chat, that we may all hold you together in your joy or your sorrow. I lift up concerns too from around the world for all those who are experiencing the effects of hunger and poverty. For the Gulf Coast, still experiencing the aftermath of hurricanes and storms this season, and with more potentially on the way. For those experiencing the aftermath of fire out in the western United States. And for those who will soon experience the effects of cold throughout our nation. I think of all these people, as well as those celebrating great joys today, whether they're electoral victories for some, defeats for others, those experiencing birthdays and celebrations even in the midst of pandemic. I think of those celebrating great anniversaries in their lives, times remembered from long ago or not so long ago. In this community, we hold all of these sacred. We come together to share, to support one another, to be with one another through good times and bad. And so once again, I invite you to share in the chat your joy or concern, and know that whether you share them there or hold them quietly in your heart, we are here with you together, sharing in all we experience. Our reading today is called Ghazal, America the Beautiful. It's by Alicia Ostreicher. She writes, "Do you remember our earnestness, our sincerity in first grade when we learned to sing America the Beautiful along with the Star-Spangled Banner and say the Pledge of Allegiance to America? We put our hands over our first grade hearts. We felt proud to be citizens of America. I said, one nation invisible until corrected. Maybe I was right about America. School days, dear old golden rule days, where we learned how to behave in America, what to wear, how to smoke, how to despise our parents who didn't understand us or America. Only later learning the banner and the beautiful live on opposite sides of the street in America. Only later discovering the nation is divisible. By money, by power, by color, by gender, by sex. America, we comprehend it now. This land is two lands, one triumphant bully, one still hopeful America. Imagining amber waves of grain blowing in the wind, purple mountains, and no homeless in America. Sometimes I still put my hand tenderly on my heart, somehow or other, still carried away by America." And so ends our reading.
We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Where do we go from here? I sat down to write this sermon not knowing the outcome of Tuesday's election and knowing that it could easily be some time before a definitive answer is clear. Even when victory is declared, indeed our president attempted to do so on the night of the election, given the vote suppression attempts, the legal attempts, and otherwise that are going on all across the country, the decision will be debated for some time to come. So first, let me say that the election is not over. Yes, the voting is done. The counting is pretty darn close to done. But we've seen already the legal challenges and the other signs that tell us this isn't over. Earlier this week, I attended a large rally in Washington, D.C. to make sure that every vote is counted. I'm grateful for the election officials, the attorneys, all those other people that are working to make sure that every vote is counted, despite, in some cases, armed vigilantes trying to stop that very thing in Arizona earlier this week. But soon, I hope and trust this election will be over with a clear winner, and I very much hope a smooth transition of power after that. And so I'm thinking today of what happens no matter what the outcome of one election is. What do we do now? I know I've touched on this before, but I want to delve into some of the particulars today. So first, let me be clear, I'm not saying that elections don't matter. As President Obama famously said, elections have consequences. And no matter what politicians and bureaucrats have done to try to stop that, elections in this country still have consequences, and they should have even greater consequences, in my opinion. I don't want our politicians to feel like they can do what they wish. Their job is to do what we, the voters, wish. And yes, sometimes to follow their consciences, to do better things, even if it might not be what we wish. So elections matter, and they matter at all levels. I know many of us here appreciate how important local and state elections are. We've seen the disastrous results that can happen from poor local and state government. But to make elected representatives actually represent us, it can seem like a fantasy sometimes. It shouldn't. This is what their jobs are, just as our jobs are to make the world better by doing the work of the beloved community, and that includes holding politicians accountable. Which brings me back to the point. We've seen the power of organizing this year, as a number of incumbent politicians who, in most years, might have felt pretty darn comfortable about their re-election chances, have lost. Even more have had some serious scares. I hope that might make them reevaluate their decisions and how they relate to their constituents. It was organizing that made that happen. Texas, for instance, set voting records both for the state and in many, many individual jurisdictions. And that was because of organizing on a scale we haven't seen in a long time. Though it didn't change most of the statewide results, it would be wrong to assume that it didn't matter. In Arizona, we saw why those sorts of efforts matter so much. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, we see that change can happen. It's organizing, too, that has changed the national conversation. A decade ago, I don't remember anyone, hardly anyone, talking about things like income inequality or the very notion that Black lives matter. Similarly, the conversation around sexual assault has changed because of Me Too. The conversation around healthcare has deepened and transformed as Obamacare became the law of the land, and now many of us push for universal healthcare. The failures and ridiculousness of our health system are too numerous to list here, but it's clear we must do something. And I am not interested in any system that doesn't protect the most vulnerable among us. On a more personal level, UU the Vote has captured more of the attention and dedication of a wider swath of UUs than I've seen in a long time. By contacting literally millions of voters this election cycle, it's fair to think that UU the Vote had a significant effect on many races, including the presidential one this year. The truth is that we probably need to UU our entire political process, though, which is why I'm excited that the project will be continuing past this election. There's a lot more information and detail to come about what that will look like, and I can't wait to find out more. My good friend Ashley Horan, the Reverend Ashley Horan, is directing that effort. But what any form of UUing the political process means is engagement, ultimately. That means talking about our values consistently, often, loudly, in the public sphere. We can't just be quietly UU in our homes and our congregations' walls. We have to be out there. And it was clear from the feedback in our most recent mission and vision session that many of us feel this way already. Many of our proudest, our most memorable moments in the congregation were when we were engaged deeply with the outside community, both by going out and doing work and by inviting that larger community into our spaces. This sort of work changes lives and communities for the better, including our own. It is the work of making our values present and real out in the larger world. Another way to do this is for us, either as a congregation or part of a congregation, or as individuals, to be involved in other organizations doing good in our world. Many of us do this already through our own individual work. And as a congregation, we partner using both our time and our money with local organizations that are doing good work. I'm particularly proud of one connection we have as a member congregation of the Texas UU Justice Ministry, which is a multi-congregation group that works to lobby the Texas state government on behalf of specific initiatives that support our UU values. This is the sort of legislative advocacy that is difficult to do well for a small group like our congregation, but can be done effectively, meaningfully, powerfully when we partner with other congregations to support it. If you don't know much about it yet, that's okay, but I encourage you to learn more. One way to do that is by engaging with our Ministry for the Social Justice and Earth. What else does UUing the political process mean? It means engaging people in our neighborhoods, at our workplaces potentially, all over our lives. Now that doesn't mean supporting a particular candidate or party. It doesn't mean pestering people about what political takes they have. What it means is having some hard conversations about values, about morals, about things that really matter, like human dignity, access to food and water and education, healthcare, how we care for those in our world who most need help. I also want to be clear that I'm not asking anyone to do anything that might hurt them. You don't have to engage the family member that is hurtful if that is bad for you. But I am asking all of us to lean into discomfort, not harm, but discomfort. Having real conversations about our values is not something many of us were raised to do. It's not something our culture encourages for many of us, but it's so necessary. Many of us were taught quite clearly to be nice and polite. Well, it's my contention that being just, being authentic, matters more than being nice, and I won't apologize for that. We're all called to do this, and for each of us that work will look a little bit different. If you're wondering what it might look like for you, I encourage you to talk with others here, to engage some of the resources already on our website, to come to a social justice meeting, and to engage in our mission and vision process in which we talk about these very things. We've just begun it this month, so there's a lot to go. Now, friends, all of us, each of us, is a shining light for our community and for our world. It's time to let our light shine bright for all the world to see. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And now, please join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again. Thank you.
Our benediction words today come from the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. She writes, "We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for." Our worship is ended and our service begins.